Siegel. Bugsy had been careless with mob money and had lost millions of dollars building the Flamingo Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas.
There was a great deal of disappointment in how Ben Siegel had operated that business out there. He had been warned again, and he's not responding. We have to do something.
Lucky made a ruthless decision. It was time to teach Bugsy the ultimate lesson in mob business, that money is more important than friendship.
They sort of held a kangaroo court there and decided what are they going to do about Bugsy. And Lucky said, you gotta kill him. That sealed Bugsy Siegel's fate.
On the evening of June 20th, 1947, in the Beverly Hills mansion of Bugsy's girlfriend, Virginia Hill, Bugsy was brutally murdered. After the summit meeting, Lucky wanted to stay put in Cuba and run the international heroin racket from there. He got along just fine with the corrupt government, including the dictator Batista. But a certain nosy agent from the U.S. Bureau of Narcotics named Harry Anslinger got in Lucky's way and pressured the Cubans to kick the gangster out.
He said that Luciano was going to be using Havana as a pumping station for illegal heroin into the United States.
Luciano thereafter calls Anslinger Ass Slinger and sees him as his nemesis and worries about him. And I think that's quite revealing. The reason Luciano was worried about Harry Anslinger, Ass Slinger, and the Bureau of Narcotics was that Luciano actually was involved in heroin trafficking and was worried that the Bureau was going to nail him for it.
Luciano was expelled from Cuba on the Turkish steamer Bakir and forced back to Italy. When the ship docked in Genoa, Italian police put Lucky in prison for a few days for violating his agreement not to leave the country. Then the authorities sent him off to Palermo in his native Sicily and put him under permanent police surveillance. The police told Luciano to stay out of trouble and keep a low profile. Anything Lucky did aroused suspicion. In a quaint Palermo square, he set up a candy factory that specialized in making what Italians call confetti, sugar-coated almonds served at weddings.
He hired some trucks to take the shipment down to a freighter. Very proud of himself, but the police were there in force, and they opened up all the boxes of confetti, and they smashed with hammers all the almonds, looking for heroin. They didn't find one drop of heroin, one speck of it, and they completely ruined this whole confetti operation.
But in fact, the authorities had every right to be suspicious of Luciano. Once, in an elegant Palermo hotel, Lucky staged a fake charity auction of dolls. Inside the dolls was heroin. Certain people who attended the auction were apparently in on the scam and helped Luciano smuggle the drugs out of town.
When we met, he obviously realized that I had no idea about those dolls, and he labeled me a classic fool. He said, "You are a moron." And he took pleasure in calling me a genuine moron because I had not realized that inside the dolls there was the jobba. Jobba is a job, I understand.
The jobba, of course, was Lucky's real job, drug trafficking. In fact, Luciano was slowly but surely establishing a vast international heroin racket in affiliation with his mob cohorts back in America.
He somehow cornered the market and then found a way to get the heroin processed in laboratories and factories in central Italy. And then he found a pipeline to get the stuff to New York, and he started making millions and millions of dollars all over again.
By the late 40s, Luciano had become a familiar sight in Italy, hopping from town to town, visiting nightclubs and fancy hotels. He would stroll the elegant Via Veneto in Rome, dine at the sumptuous Hotel de Palm in Palermo, and enjoy the magnificent view from the Hotel Vesuvio in Naples, and the Mafia King never went unnoticed.
He could be a very likable, charming guy, but he also could just terrorize people into doing his bidding. No one would dare oppose him.
Aveva un carisma, sì. He had charisma. He had charisma. Yes, he did. And it didn't come from the watch he had, where the hours were marked by little diamonds. real diamonds, and you could tell that they were real. And it wasn't just the way he dressed, because, surprisingly, he was a true gentleman. He was larger than life. He had the look that could be attributed to a leading actor. To the leading actor, because when he walked in, he attracted attention.
So glamorous a figure that one day, while waving to reporters, he was mistaken for a famous Italian actor. It was his movie star charisma that attracted a stunning Italian woman, some 20 years his junior, named Igea Lissoni.
A very lovely girl. She took to Lucky Luciano. They used to call him Looky over there, L-O-O-K-Y. Not being able to pronounce the word lucky. And she took to Lucky Luciano in a big way. And I think he really did find the love of his life. And they were very, very happy together.
The couple moved into a lavish apartment in the elegant Patioli quarter of Rome, but they wouldn't be there very long. Since Luciano's deportation, the flow of narcotics from Italy into the United States had skyrocketed. Lucky was the natural suspect. In an effort to catch him, the U.S. Narcotics Bureau joined forces with Italian authorities. In July 1949, Italian police arrested an alleged Luciano associate at the Rome airport with $500,000 in cocaine. Even though there was no direct evidence linking him to the coke, Lucky was confined in Rome's Regina Coeli prison for 2 weeks. Then the Romans told the middle-aged gangster he was no longer welcome in the city. Lucky was exiled once again. But a bigger disappointment was in store for Luciano when the mob back in America began to question his role as chairman of the board. Exiled from Rome in 1949, Lucky Luciano, the chairman of the mob, retreated to Naples. Over the next 13 years, Luciano's power within the American mafia would erode to a point where the mob chieftains back in New York would threaten to kill him. Lucky and his mistress, Igea, settled into a luxurious penthouse in Naples on Via Tasso with a breathtaking view of the city. From there, Luciano managed to conduct transatlantic mob business, work for which he was well compensated.
$25,000 in cash every month from the American mob, showing the respect that the American mob still had for him as the boss of all bosses.
But all of Lucky's power and money could not buy him the one thing he wanted most: passage back to